everybody, welcome to the galley. In the galley today, fresh strawberries because it's strawberry season here in Florida. So strawberry crumb cake. Love this cake. You're going to love this cake. You got layers of cake and cream cheese and strawberries and a crumb topping and then, of course, a glaze on top. It is so delicious. So don't go anywhere because you're going to want to see and learn how to make this beautiful strawberry crumb cake. So up first, I've got my oven on 375, and I want to get my pan ready. Now this is my 12-inch cast iron pan, and I'm going to do a piece of parchment in the bottom. And the reason I'm doing this parchment is because I don't want the bottom of my cake to overcook and get really brown and hard. Now, if this was an upside down cake, I wouldn't do this because then I want it to really caramelize and get super hot. But this is going to help me protect the bottom of the cake. So I'm going to put my parchment paper in the bottom, and then I am going to brush butter across the bottom and the sides. So I have wanted to redo this strawberry crumb cake for quite a while. I just don't know that I'm pleased with the first one that I did, and it certainly hasn't had good results. And I think it's a shame because this cake is so delicious. It is definitely in my top 3. I have top 3 cakes, and in no particular order. It kind of depends on my mood. Strawberry upside down, carrot cake, and this strawberry crumb cake. We're in Florida right now. It is March. Strawberries are in season, and I got a hold of some at the farm stand. Just some beautiful strawberries, and I just thought, well, this is the perfect opportunity to redo this cake. And this is a cake that I do whenever it's strawberry season, and I find myself with fresh strawberries. This is the cake that I make, and I'm going to tell you, it's going to take several bowls, because there are different layers and components to this cake that you have to kind of do separately. So it does take several bowls, so you are going to have to do some dishwashing, but I promise it's worth it. So what I'm going to do in my food processor, I've got an 8-ounce block of cream cheese, and I've got 1/4 cup of sugar, and I've got 2.5 cups of strawberries, just finely diced, and half of that 2.5 cups, I'm putting in my food processor. And we're going to give that a whirl. And I almost forgot 2 tablespoons of milk. All right, so here we are. We have one of our layers, and actually we have two of our layers done. I'm going to set those aside. And next, this is the very top layer, the crumb topping. And in my bowl, I have 2/3 cup, and I'm doing all-purpose flour here, and 1/4 cup brown sugar. And I just want to make sure that's well combined. And then I have a 1/2 cup of butter that's cold, chilled, and cut into cubes. And you can do this, honestly, you could do this in your food processor and just pulse it. Just don't let it get too finely ground up. Or you can do it with a pastry cutter to cut this butter in. Or I just find that I like using my hands. And we're going to put that cut up pieces of cold butter in, and I like to start it with my pastry cutter and just give it a good start, and then finish it with my hands. I don't like to do all of it with my hands because my hands are going to be hot and I don't want to melt this butter, so I want as little contact as I can. But I find to really finish it and get the crumb that I'm looking for, it kind of needs my hands. So this is what we're looking for, just chunks of butter coated in brown sugar and flour, and none of them too big. in the refrigerator. So I'm going to get everything ready to go. I've got 3 eggs, a half a cup of milk, a half a cup of sugar, 1 stick of flour. I'm sorry, 1 stick of butter at room temperature. And then we're going to measure out our flour. And I want 1.5 cups of flour. Now, I am using my cake flour here. It just makes it so light and airy. It just makes that crumb so amazing. But you can absolutely do this with all-purpose flour. And we're going to do 1.5 cups of cake flour, 1.5 teaspoon of baking powder, probably 1/4 teaspoon, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and we're going to give that a whisk. So now I've got all my components ready. It's time to cream, and in my big bowl, I'm going to do my 1 stick of butter, 1/2 cup, and my 1/2 cup of sugar. And I always set my timer when I'm creaming butter and sugar. I always just set my timer for 5 minutes because I really want to work air into there. I really want this to really change colors and get light and airy. And it really takes a good 5 minutes. So I'm going to start creaming. And then when we come back, I'm going to have you down here watching me put this cake together. And next, we're going to add our eggs, and we're going to add our eggs 1 at a time, which is why I like to break mine first, and then I feel like it's just easy to roll 1 out at a time. And the reason we do our eggs 1 at a time is eggs have something called lecithin, and lecithin is actually an important thing in the human body. But what it is it helps emulsify all of this together and stabilize it. And when you add too much at one time, it just floods it with too much moisture, and then it can become clotted. So that's why they always say, add your eggs 1 at a time. Next, we're going to add 1/2 cup of milk and 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. And then next, at low speed, we're going to add our flour, baking soda, salt mixture. And give it a good scraping down of the sides. Make sure we get everything incorporated. And now we're ready for our skillet. So our batter, we're going to just spread that all along the bottom. All right, so we've got our batter all spread out here. And then next, we're going with that strawberry mixture that we made. And let me get a new spatula here. I'm just going to go all over the top, and then we'll come back and spread it out. This is kind of like a strawberry cheesecake layer. And we're going to get that all spread around in there. And that's just going to bake right into that cake. Amazing. Next, that 2 cups of strawberries that we have, and again another layer on the top with those strawberries. And it usually takes like 1 16-ounce package of container of strawberries. Usually does this cake. So you could just set aside a 1/2 cup and then just go ahead and dice up the rest for this topping layer. And then here comes Billy. Do you want to lick the batters, honey?
Oh, never. She never offers that before. Now, when I'm on the radio or on the big production, she offers something that she never offers up before.
He's telling stories.
Don't believe her.
He is telling stories.
That's like believing that she's a chef. Are you kidding me?
All right, now we have this out of the fridge, our crumb topping, and we're going to go all across the top with that. I promise if you make this cake, it's going to become one of your top 3 cakes as well.
It's a contender.
It's a contender. I could have been a contender. Even though you have to wash a lot of bowls afterwards, I promise you it's going to be worth it. How pretty is that? Okay, 350, 375. I'm going to set my timer for 35 minutes, and then I'm going to come check on it in 35 minutes. So we're coming up on our 35 minutes, and you can see how that's still jiggly. There, so 35 minutes. So that's still jiggly, which tells us obviously it needs a little more time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my oven up to about 425 to finish this, and that's going to help that crumb topping get a little more brown and crunchy on top. And then I'm going to go back in for 10 more minutes. All right, time is up. And you can see how it's a little more brown on top. Doesn't have that same jiggle. Yeah, and it looks good. Now, I'm going to set my timer for another 15 minutes, and I'm going to let this sit in the pan for 15 minutes before we flip it out. All right, so our first 15 minutes are up. And it's time to flip. So I'm going to flip. Ah, beautiful. And then flip again. All right. So now we want another 15 minutes to cool down. And in that time, I'm going to make our glaze for this. So for my glaze, I got 3/4 cups of confection sugar. And then to this, we're going to add a little vanilla and a little milk. Now, I know if you look in the recipe, it says 2 tablespoons of milk. But really, it could be 1, it could be 3. It kind of depends on the day. And I usually start with 1 and then add as I need it till it gets to the consistency that I like. Okay, enough of that. And we're going to do 1/2 teaspoon vanilla. And we're going to start with 1 tablespoon of milk. And you can tell right away, like, if that's going to be enough or not. And I like a whole lot of glaze. So you could obviously cut this back if you didn't want this much glaze. I think that's one of my favorite parts is the glaze. And we're going to get this glaze all mixed up here. And what we want is to not be so thick that it doesn't, see how that's drizzling like that? That's what we want. So it looks like 2 today was perfect. Because then we can go over our cake like that. I don't want to do it if he's too warm. It's just going to run off of the cake, and he still feels a little too warm. So I think we'll wait till at 15 minutes, and then we'll come back and glaze. All right, now our 15 minutes are up, and now comes the final part, the final bowl, the glaze. And radio's so busy today. Well, really every day. So here we are. Let me move you back here so you can see this beautiful cake. Super easy to make. It does require a lot of bowls, but that's okay. Nothing great ever came easy, right? And now for what I think is the part we've all been waiting for. The test. The tasting. Sorry. Rocking a little bit here. So you see we got this beautiful cake. You've got that cream cheese, strawberry, crumble, and then of course the glaze. And this cake is so moist and tender. That cake flour makes such a difference. It's beautiful. It's perfect. give this a try when strawberries are in season, and this is going to become your favorite crumb cake to make every time strawberries are in season or you find yourself with a lot of strawberries. Thank you everybody for watching today. I so appreciate it. I will see everybody later. Bye. I'll see you later. Thank you.